I was brought up very hard. And since people have been brought up hard from the home because they've had a hard life, they'll be always like that for the rest of their life. But deep inside me, I'm a kind-hearted person because I never got that love when I was a baby. My name's Jane Rosengrave and I'm an Indigenous woman with an intellectual disability, and I'm a strong, powerful self-advocacy as well. And I go to organisations that are for people with a disability and intellectual disability that are run by Reinforce, which has been going since the 80s, SARU, Self-Advocacy Resource Unit, AMIRA, and that's to do with housing for people with a disability, and the First People's Disability Network in Sydney, and that's for people who are Indigenous with a disability. The very first place I can remember living is in the orphanage in Ballarat. That was from when I was 6 months to 5 years old. But it was not until we had to move out into the community, and it was the CRUs called the Community Residential Units in those days. And that's when we were learning how to do shopping with the groceries and washing, doing the floor, sweeping the floor, mopping the floor. If we didn't do our jobs, we would be punished. I found out that I had family and it was in Melbourne, and that's when I decided to move down to Melbourne. And that's when me and my ex was together, and we moved down to near Dandenong, and we stayed in this same house, which was private rental, for 23 years. And when we moved there first, it was $300 a fortnight. It was $300, I reckon, for the next, I'd say 5 years when we were there, or even a bit more. And once the mother died who owned that place, once the daughter took over, she started putting the rent up more. And then by the time I left him for good, my partner, after my domestic violence there, the rent was about $550, $650 it was a fortnight. To me, why I think a man could hit a woman, he feels like if he's the king of the castle. He feels like if he's the one in charge of the family. He feels like if he doesn't have to have anybody to listen to him, and he feels like if he's got the muscles, that the women are weak, but we aren't. We are strong as well as what we are with the men. While I was with him, I felt like if I couldn't say really what I wanted to say, but it was after I left him that I felt like if I was being listened to, heard, wanted, and been someone helping me. And these days now, which we're being listened to, people with a disability and without a disability, if anyone hits anyone, they are charged. It's not like those days when people were allowed to hit people and they got away with it. But I stayed with him until I was 50, because I was 41 when I had the brain surgery. So I decided to give him 3 chances after that. And once I left him for good, that's when the big world started opening up. And that's when I started feeling free as a bird. And that's when I started feeling positive, powerful, stronger, and that's when I started finding out a lot more about my Aboriginal side, on who my dad is, and that. So I've got this tattoo now, and it's saying free as a bird after my domestic violence. Yes. Housing Choices started way back in the late 80s, and it's a government organisation that they get the money from, and that's when people over 50 stay here until their life has ended, and that. And then there's another organisation called Wintering Home, which is for the people, again, over 50, but Wintering Home is, there's a social group which you can go out in the bus for excursions. They come with you to the doctors, the staff from the wintering home. They can help you if you need food, Meals on Wheels. And they can even help you if you are sick, and if you haven't got no one, they can come and help you clean up the mess and take you to the hospital and check and take you to your doctor and, you know, see how things are. That's when I said definitely yes, because it's right in the big smoke. And it's better than where I was living before, right out towards Dandenong. My enjoyment living here in the city is when I can please myself on, if I want to go out at night and go up the street, I can. McDonald's isn't far. I can go and have a munch down at McDonald's, go to Southern Cross Station, you know, just relax there, or go in the garden, down by the river, sit in the sun, do crocheting. First People's Disability Network as well, and going to the Royal Commission as well, telling my story as well. For telling my story, I got the Human Rights Award from the whole of Australia for travelling around with the Royal Commission, telling my story and getting other people to tell their stories as well on their upbringing from the institutions and all that, if they were sexually abused. Self-advocacy is very important for me because how I was brought up was those days when the staff done the talking for us. That's when they thought we disability people never had a voice to be heard, and that we couldn't stand up and fight for what we wanted. I do not want to go down that footpath again, you know, domestic violence, what I was in, and I left him at the age of 50, and I want the rest of my life to be brilliant, because you only live once on this earth, and you're dead under the ground a lot longer than what you are alive.